It's been a political witch hunt. It was done to damage my reputation so that I'd lose the election, and obviously that didn't work. And the people of our country got to see this firsthand because they watched the case in your courtroom. They got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won and got the largest number of votes by far of any Republican candidate in history.
President Trump, after his phony, baloney, corrupt third world KGB sentencing today at the hands of the poser, Juan Merchan. Have you noticed the photos of Juan Merchan are, like high fashion photos, flipping his hair and squinting in the sun, and he's got professional fashion photographers brought in. It's not like he's not sitting there with a flag behind him and a bench and a black robe. Fashion photos. Posing. What's up with that? And now Led Zeppelin. Ah, yes, the Democrat Party. Look what they've done to our otherwise nice country. The left is here. Wah, wah, wah. Did you see the photographs? There may be video, too, of a man in Los Angeles, California, with a fire burning outside of his place, and he's out there with cartons of almond milk, pouring cartons of almond milk on the burning fire, trying to put it out because I think they're having water problems, and then I think that's absolutely true. Just amazing stuff. Now, the Los Angeles Fire Department recently created its first DEI bureau, right? Their Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau. And their assistant chief for the fire department for DEI is named Christine Larson, and they pay her $399,000 a year to lead the DEI bureau in the Los Angeles Fire Department. Now, they can't put fires out, but they can do this. Just amazing stuff. $400,000 a year. I'm just going to round the $399,000 a year salary to $400,000 a year to be the first DEI bureau assistant chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Christine Larson, a woman. I'm going like this with my hand. Looking little manly, I think. But interestingly enough, now let's go to that. We have that audio, right? And what number is that? 16. That's number 16 on our cut sheet today. And I watched this yesterday. This was really something. The Los Angeles Fire Department Deputy Chief in charge of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Christine Larson. And this is Christine Larson bragging on video that, if you're, and I was talking about this yesterday on the radio because the fire chief, they're very proud, and the first line in her biography that she posted is, "I'm the woman and I'm LGBT." And I was saying yesterday, yeah, but can you carry a 200-pound man out of a burning building? Because, firefighters, sometimes when you have a bad day, you can have a really bad day. And you may be called upon to do some very serious stuff, like carry a 200-pound, let's say a 200-pound woman, because that might make these people more inclined to act. I think that, they don't like man stink and toxic masculinity. They don't like any of that. So here's this kind of, the song Dude Look Like a Lady. This is Lady Look Like a Dude. And LAFD Assistant Chief Christine Larson, pretty amazing stuff. And it's ironic because when I talked about this yesterday, I had not seen this video, didn't know anything about this video, but an assistant chief or deputy chief in charge of equity for the LAPD is a sturdy-looking woman with a really short haircut and doesn't look like she's all caught up with quaint, old-fashioned notions of femininity and such 20th century things. But listen to this, because it's quite remarkable. And because we were talking about it yesterday on the radio, what happens when it comes time to carry a 200-pound man out of a burning building? I actually said that yesterday. And then I saw this video only after that. And here is Los Angeles Fire Department Deputy Chief in charge of equity, who is, I'm not sure if Christine Larson is transgender or what, but definitely not on the march to Fashion Week.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better.
I'm sorry. First of all, that's a woman's voice. That's her voice. We didn't alter the voice or anything like that. Just kind of a little bit of a Pinky Tuscadero toughie there. Pretty remarkable stuff. But what was that racist thing? Oh, yeah, and I always forget to mention, she is a woman of color, a WOC. And so Joe Biden could have picked her to be his vice presidential running mate, too. A woman of color, a sturdy woman of color. Christine Larson in charge of equity at $400,000 a year for the Los Angeles Fire Department. And said, these are her priorities. When your house is burning down and you are trapped inside of a burning house, you want the person that shows up to look like you, which is racist and sexist. And no, I never actually thought that. I've never thought that once. Gosh, I sure hope that the firefighter, the ambulance, EMT shows up, looks like me, because if the EMT doesn't look like me, but I got to tell you, if this woman doesn't look like me, and I don't want her to show up. So maybe she's onto something. I don't know. I don't want her to show up. That's remarkable. But wait, here comes the good part, because yesterday I was saying, so they're very proud of their woman fire chief, who is LGBTQ. They're very, very proud of that. And then they got the deputy chief in charge of equity, because what's more important in fighting fires than equity? And they use the words, but they don't know what they mean. But here is the deputy chief, Los Angeles Fire Department, saying if you're a 200-pound man in a burning building, tough luck, pal, you're dead.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. You are fired. You are so fired. Now wow. Isn't that amazing? That's the deputy police chief in charge of equity said, if you find yourself in a bank robbery and you're being shot by a bank robber with a gun, well, you just found yourself in the wrong place. And, and the police, they shouldn't carry guns. Just because bad guys carry guns doesn't mean the police should carry guns. What about equity? And we should have, Samoan dwarves. Are they called dwarves or little people? Samoan, I don't think there are a lot of Samoan little people, but we should have, lesbian dwarf Samoans as police officers, because, they look like me, and they definitely want. Isn't that amazing?
Son, you're on your own.
You are definitely on your own. Yeah, and she says, am I able to carry your husband out of a fire? He got himself in the wrong place. So that's Los Angeles, California. And here's her official profile with her smiling picture. Deputy Chief, right, in the Equity and Human Resources Bureau. They've got a bureau. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. And the headline on the fire chief lady, L.A.'s lesbian fire chief battles blazes and bigots. I don't see her battling blazes, and there are plenty of them to battle, I've got to say. And also, meet the people in charge of the Los Angeles Fire Department, Charlie Kirk, posting on X. All of them lesbians named Kristen. And this is pretty amazing. There are 3 leading women in the Los Angeles Fire Department: Christina Crowley, the first woman and the first LGBTQ fire chief in the LAPD. And she's paid $439,722 a year. Then there's, and that's Christina, right? Christina Crowley. Then there's Christina Kepner, the first lesbian, so a woman and an LGBTQ woman, the first lesbian assistant chief of the Los Angeles Fire Department. And then Christine Larson, again, the three Christines, the first black lesbian equity bureau chief in the Los Angeles Fire Department. She makes $399,000 a year. I left out Christina Kepner. She makes $264,468 a year. Why is she being discriminated against? Why is she's not making? Because everybody else is over, well, I guess right at $400,000 and more. But you got three women in charge, the actual chief, first lesbian and first woman to be fire chief, $439,000. Then you've got the first black lesbian equity bureau chief of the LA Fire Department at $399,000 a year. And then Christina, they're all Christina. And all with a K. With a K. They don't want Christ in their lives. They want it goes KKK. I got them stacked up right here. They should be called the KKK, the lesbian leadership of the Los Angeles Fire Department. And look, everybody loves lesbians. Everybody knows that, right? Number one channels on YouTube and Michael tells me on Pornhub. You know, there are all these lesbian channels, very popular. Everybody loves lesbians. Isn't that amazing? Now, speaking of which, there was a big deal yesterday in the courts here in the United States as well. And now just don't, if your house is on fire, don't expect them to carry you out because you got yourself in the wrong place.
He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
That's right. He got him, so he can die. That's their take. You can burn to death for all they care. That's extraordinary stuff. Just amazing. Yeah, and I want to get to the big court case out of Kentucky because it's good for women, and Democrats are anti-women. They're anti-girls. They're anti-women. Speaking of which, Michelle Obama didn't show up yesterday at the National Cathedral in Washington for the funeral of former president and late President Jimmy Carter, James Earl Carter, not related to James Earl Ray. Michelle Obama, who would have sat by Donald Trump, misses Carter funeral. That's the left-wing Politico headline. She missed and everybody's seen it now. We were talking about it. We were live on the air when this was happening yesterday, and I was describing to you Donald Trump and Barack Obama yucking it up and having a good time became kind of a big story because they seem to be getting along famously just fine. Because Trump can get along with anybody. He's a New York guy. Obama's a communist, but never mind that. And Michelle missed the event. She's in Hawaii on an extended holiday vacation. That's what, was that CNN or NBC? It was CNN yesterday, yeah. Former First Lady Michelle Obama was noticeably absent from former President Jimmy Carter's funeral at the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday. She had a scheduling conflict. Sure she did. Who doesn't have a scheduling conflict, after all? I couldn't make it either. I was doing a radio show. You know, I've got a job. But that's it. She had a scheduling conflict, they said. Michelle would have been seated next to former President Donald Trump, who instead sat next to former President Barack Obama, because the protocol would mandate, would suggest that you have the former presidents in order, a chronological order, with the first ladies next to them, and you would have the presidents who are all men because Hillary lost, you remember. And Hillary was there. Boy, she looked bitter, didn't she? She didn't look like she was having fun. But Michelle, it turns out, was in Hawaii, maybe at their Magnum PI oceanfront estate. How much is that worth? Like $10 million? She couldn't make it, even though she's got access to other people's private jets. But she didn't show up. She's a no-show. Put her down as a no-show. And I got to tell you, Kamala Harris was not gracious enough to go over and shake hands with Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton was not gracious enough to go over and shake hands with Donald Trump. Very bitter, envious women, dripping with jealousy. Terrible. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of the previous two generations that earned thousands of five-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet and became a bestseller in no time at all. The new Thunderstorm, I've got one at home, and two of the earlier versions. The new Thunderstorm uses two different technologies that studies have proven help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air. Also removes dust and pet dander. It's dander, smoke, and a whole lot more from the air. Helps get rid of any stinky odor. And you don't have to buy filters to replace again and again. You can hold an Eden Pure in your hand. They're only this big. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky odor, any smell, guaranteed. Odors from trash cans, cigarette smoke, smelly shoes, and socks. Come on. They'll just disappear in a matter of seconds with the Thunderstorm being on. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for a whole home protection. You can put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room. You can give one away as a gift to somebody that needs it. You know, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air, that's where you want to use it. And all you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code CHRIS3. That's me, plus the number 3, CHRIS. And you're going to save $200 on 3 Thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS and the number 3. Yes, sir. Yeah, so Michelle, she's in Hawaii. A scheduling conflict. It's not easy, falling into tens and tens of millions of dollars for not really ever doing anything. But she's good at it. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
Well, you do if you're a virulent racist like you are, which is standard protocol for Democrats. Let's grab a quick phone call. Let's go to Luke calling from Texas. Luke, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Chris. Long-time listener, second-time caller. Last time under the call sign Luke Not the Lib on the heels of Mike the Lib that day, but I digress. Anyway, yeah, just to piggyback on that call you had or the thing. Hey, I want you to know something in regard to somebody looking like me. You know, I'm 5'6", 175 pounds, Italian-Polish guy from Chicago suburbs, 62 years old. You know, if I'm in a burning building, I want a clone of a 265-pound, 5'6", former defensive end Chicago Bears, Richard Dent, showing up in my burning building.
That's what Michael said.
In one hand.
Michael said, I want the people that show up to look like the front line of the Chicago Bears. That's what he actually said. A final farewell to the 39th president. During a state funeral, Jimmy Carter remembered as a man with a tough mind and a tender heart. That's the front page of the Washington Post today, their lead story with a photograph of Bill and Hillary Clinton standing there. They have their hands on their hearts, and they're standing next to George W. Bush and Laura Bush, looking fit and ready. And then Barack Obama with his hand on his heart. He doesn't know why. Remarkable stuff. And President Trump and Melania Trump next to them. You know, the seating arrangement is a matter of protocol, of course. The front row is in the pews. Joe Biden, current president of the United States. Jill Biden, not a doctor, current first lady of the United States. Next to Kamala Harris, who for a minute, I guess, thought she might become president of the United States. And then Slugger Emhoff standing next to her, because in the front pew, and the photograph is taken as the casket, the flag-draped casket, is being carried by a Joint Services Honor Guard, bringing the Jimmy Carter casket by. And Doug Emhoff, he looks a little confused. What am I doing here? I was just dating this Willie Brown's girlfriend, and now I'm here. This is weird. And Melania looking wonderful, and Michelle, Big Mike. Big Mike is not there. She's commonly known, her Secret Service code name is Big Mike, Michelle Obama. She's in Hawaii, having flown private to get out to the multi-million-dollar mansion. I don't know what kind of shape that's in. They bought the mansion from Magnum P.I., the TV show Magnum P.I., they really did, and tore it down and put up an illegal seawall around it because don't you know who they are? And rebuilt a multi-million-dollar mansion where the Magnum P.I. mansion used to be. And she's out in Hawaii. I don't know if she's at the Magnum P.I. mansion or not, but they got that going for him. Now, interestingly, Mike Pence, because former vice president, in the row just behind Trump and Mike Pence's wife and the Mrs. Pence. I like to call her Mrs. Pence. And they're standing there, and I believe that Trump and Mike Pence said hello and had a nice greeting. And Barack Obama didn't have a date, so he sat right next to. Based on the protocol, the way it's the seating goes, you got from left to right, just visually, not politically. You have Bill Clinton and then Hillary Clinton. Then you have George W. Bush and Laura Bush. Then you have Barack Obama, and then you would have Michelle Obama next to him, to his left, off his left hand, and then Donald Trump, because the protocol would have Michelle Obama sitting next to Donald Trump. And perhaps that's why she didn't show up, because she's a vicious, vituperative, left-wing, radical political extremist who is not comfortable in her own skin or next to other people's skin. Remarkable stuff. Then Donald Trump, right, and then Melania Trump. And you see that in order of chronological order, and the president, then the first lady, the president, then first lady, president, then not a first lady because Big Mike didn't show up, then President Trump, and then Melania Trump, right? And then in the front row, Joe Biden, president, not a Dr. Jill Biden, and then the vice president, Kamala Harris, who lost. Again, you got two women here who were beaten by Donald Trump in the presidential contests in two different, right? In 2024, and Donald Trump beat Kamala. And in 2016, Donald Trump beat Hillary. And they're both there, and they don't look happy at all. They don't look like happy people. I don't think they are happy people. And there is a funny meme making its way around. And it's not the high altar, but up in the front of the nave of the cathedral by the Canterbury pulpit, there is an inlaid wooden floor. And the inlaid wooden floor has what we now call the Pete Hegseth cross, right? The Pete Hegseth cross. And this has caused a lot of hilarity, actually, because the Democrats, Pete Hegseth nominee to be the Secretary of Defense, former Fox News host, former U.S. Army officer and combat veteran, decorated combat veteran, Pete Hegseth. And he has the tattoo of the Jerusalem cross on his chest. And the left came out and said, oh, that's a Nazi symbol, which it's not. And the things making the rounds on the internet show the program for the event with the Jerusalem cross for the James Earl Carter Jr. funeral service, right? And remarkable stuff that it's got the Jerusalem cross. It's a Christian cross, and then flanking each corner of the cross quadrant, another cross, right? Pete Hegseth has that tattoo. The left tried to claim, when they discovered Pete Hegseth had this tattoo, that it was a fascist, white supremacist, Nazi tattoo and cross. And then there is a legitimate photo of the Jerusalem cross in the floor of the Washington National Cathedral, the Episcopal Cathedral made of Indiana limestone, a beautiful, wonderful cathedral. And it's kind of a funny thing. How did Pete Hegseth's crypto-Nazi tattoo get etched into the floor of the National Cathedral before Carter's funeral? It's just another misinformation, disinformation campaign by the left because they lie about everything. They lie all the time. Just like George, who called in earlier today, who might be Frank, who called in, was that last week or earlier this week? Yeah, it was earlier this week. And then he called into Dan Bongino's show and made a fool out of himself there. They lie about everything. They spread all kinds of stuff. But it's the memes going around are funny. The Pete Hegseth cross at the Washington National Cathedral. Wow. I guess Jimmy Carter's funeral is some kind of a white supremacist, fascist, just funeral. Crazy. Now, who else was there? Well, it's been noted that Dick Cheney, former vice president, was not there, and he would have been invited to be there, and he would have been in the, in the seating arrangement there, seated behind the presidents where the vice presidents were seated. And, Dan Quayle was there. Dan Quayle was there. And I've got to say, I didn't see him there. I didn't get to watch the whole thing because I was doing the radio show while it was happening. I was busy. I have a job. I got to pay taxes to send to California so they can pay their gender equity lesbian fire chief $400,000 a year. And we're going to have to bail them out now. You know that, right? Yeah, but Michelle Obama didn't show up. Dick Cheney didn't show up. But Dan Quayle was there. And I think that's great. He was a target and a victim of the left-wing smear campaign long ago, painting him to be a big idiot potato and potatoes, right? And Democrats, Joe Biden says things much worse than that every day. Kamala Harris, every time she speaks, she says things worse than that. But when you're a Democrat, that's fine. That's no big deal. These are not good people. Not good people. Also, there was a little bit of, and it's not the first time this has happened, but it's kind of funny that Garth Brooks was there, and apparently sang "Imagine." Is that right? Saying "Imagine," right? Imagine there's no heaven. It's if you try. No God above us only sky. Isn't that great? So a lot of content coming out of Jimmy Carter's funeral. It was going fast. The Obama-Trump giggle session, as it was described in at least one article, took America by storm on social media. CNN couldn't believe their fearless leader, Barack Hussein Obama, would dare speak to Adolf Hitler himself. The audacity. Absolutely crazy stuff. And also had George W. Bush manhandling Obama. Gave him a little tap on the, walking by saying hello, give him a little back of the hand tap on the belly. And it was friendly and cordial and perfectly normal. But for transgender Democrats, and I think that's everyone now, that's toxic masculinity, I think. He didn't manhandle him, but, media, they say all kinds of things. And Biden, falling asleep, which he likes to do, he nodded off because he's not up to the task of doing anything, let's be honest. Remarkable stuff. And then, Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood perform Imagine. They're in the Washington National Cathedral, the Episcopal Cathedral, which George Washington called for. He called for a cathedral to be built high on a hill in Washington, and eventually that happened. The cornerstone laid by Teddy Roosevelt, and the final stone laid by George H.W. Bush. I was there when H.W. Bush laid the final stone on the top of the cathedral, the pinnacle. And then Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood perform Imagine, which, has the whole thing about, there is no God, no heaven above us.
Imagine there's no heaven.
You're in church. You're in a cathedral at a funeral.
It's easy if you try.
Yeah, sure. It's easy if you try.
No hell below.
For all the Democrats to go to.
Above us only sky.
How about the after-school Satan Club? So that happened yesterday and seems rather inappropriate at the funeral of a president and in the Washington National Cathedral. the Grand Episcopal Church, a great example of Gothic architecture, Gothic cathedral. And that is a very inappropriate song to sing, I've got to say. And somebody maybe should have checked that. But it's a Democrat thing, and you know how Democrats are. They're not on our side. Speaking of genderless and gender-confused and child sexual predators, since we're talking about the Democratic Party, there was a big deal yesterday when a federal judge vacated Joe Biden's Title IX rule scrapping protections for LGBTQ plus students nationwide. Why do students, that is children, need Title IX protection? What is this going on here? Federal District Court judge in Kentucky has struck down President Joe Biden's effort to protect transgender students and make other changes to Title IX, ruling the U.S. Department of Education violated teachers' rights by requiring them to use transgender students' names and pronouns. Now, believe it or not, this is the North Dakota Monitor that I'm reading from. Sounds like it's being written by the fire chiefs in L.A., I think. But the ruling issued Thursday, which applies nationwide, came as a major blow. Can you say major blow in this context? To the Biden administration in its final days, and to LGBTQ plus advocates. Advocates, you see. It comes less than 2 weeks before President-elect Donald Trump takes office, when the rule was likely to face more scrutiny. It's another executive order. They don't believe in Congress or anything like that. From a candidate who took aim at transgender people, that's not true, and a culture war-focused campaign. You guys start the culture wars, then when we wake up to it, we're the bad guys for having a culture war-focused campaign. Completely ridiculous. Now, here's the thing about this. This is about teachers. If a kindergarten, and it's K through 12, make no mistake, if a kindergarten student said, no, my name is not Tommy anymore, now I'm Lolita, and you must call me Lolita, and you must call me they and them, because I use the HOV lanes coming in from school. Completely ridiculous. Now, there was where is this now? Number 16? 18. Number 18. The Alliance Defending Freedom. The Alliance Defending Freedom. They have an attorney, Matt Sharp, and Matt Sharp was on the television this morning talking about the ruling out of Kentucky yesterday.
This is a colossal win, not only for students like Adalea, but for every young woman and girl across the country that wants fairness on the playing field, that doesn't want a man coming into their locker room or restroom, or even students and teachers that don't want to be forced to use inaccurate names and pronouns. This Biden rule was unlawful the day it was written, and we're glad to see this federal court recognize that nationwide, the Biden administration and no future administration can enforce this rule against any student anywhere.
This outrageous Biden Democrat rule that puts a gun to everyone's head and says you must pretend that there are more than two genders. There aren't. There are two genders. You can call yourself whatever you want. You can dress whatever whatever way you want. But you can't order me to call you her when you're obviously him. If your name is Lolita and you decide that you want to be called Rocky, whatever, that's up to you. But forcing teachers, and that was a big part of this decision. And the attorney for the Alliance Defending Freedom, Matt Sharp.
This Title IX rule applied from K-12 all the way to college. We've seen how time and time again courts looking at this issue have found that this rule was unlawful, that it violated free speech and parental rights and privacy and safety of young girls. And so we're hopeful that other courts are going to follow this court's lead and make sure that this rule stays dead and doesn't try and come back alive.
Common sense isn't. And the left is here to strip away science and biology and culture and replace it with their own personal mental illnesses. Their own private mental illnesses, some of which they keep in Idaho, apparently. Judge scraps Biden's Title IX rules, reversing expansion of protections for LGBTQ plus Students, that's children. They're always assailing the children. They're always after the children. For the love of Mike, keep them away from the children. You may remember the Pizzagate controversy, where a man from North Carolina came to Washington, D.C. and went into a pizza joint on Connecticut Avenue, about a mile from this radio station, and said, "You guys are trafficking children for sexual purposes," like all Democrats apparently do now. And it became a big deal, and the police showed up, huge numbers of police, and including a couple of friends of mine, D.C. police, showed up there. Well, the man that rushed that pizza place, Comet Ping Pong and Pizza, has been shot to death. Man who attacked D.C. Pizza Parlor in 2016 is shot and killed by police in North Carolina. They pulled him over, say he whipped out a gun, and the police shot him to death. Edgar Madison Welch was shot and killed by police last week, but the news didn't make it to Washington until quite recently. Isn't that amazing? So we got that. And let's see. What else did I want to hit on? There's so much crazy news. They give me too much stuff. But the Title IX thing, that's good, because Democrats, they want men showering with your daughters in junior high school and in kindergarten, playing the role of, because they're crazy. Let's go to Travis, also calling from Illinois. Travis, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. You remember that skit on Saturday Night Live, It's Pat?
Yeah, sure, it's Pat. Yeah, Pat. Yeah, kind of gender-neutral Pat.
Well, what if Pat was like a 911 telephone operator? 911, what is your preferred salutation and gender pronouns? And like, oh, my house is burning down. Please help. Oh, well, please describe yourself so we can send the proper first responder to make you feel as comfortable as possible in this time of your emergency.
Well, in Los Angeles, the deputy fire chief in charge of equity, who makes $399,000 a year, is a woman of color and LGBTQ. And she knows that when you call 911, you're probably going to want to say, I'm a short, overweight black lesbian. Can you send firefighters and medics that are also short, overweight black lesbians?
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you.
That's right. And you should have to give your pronouns, Travis. Right?
Right. And yeah, and also my hair is blue, so please send first responders that have blue hair like mine.
Excellent idea. This is the left. The left shouldn't be allowed to be in charge of anything. Just look at history.